And with me are Neil Campbell and AJ. Neil Campbell is currently the fastest cyclist in Europe and planning to be the fastest cyclist in the world on this particularly special Moss bikes built by AJ here. So we're going to sit down and have a chat. So, what makes you want to be the fastest cyclist on earth? Because that is the plan. And how do you start getting there? I mean, what's your cycling background?
Cycling background, I've been sort of cycling since I was 18 years old, just club cyclists, club 10s, all that kind of thing. Sort of moved into track riding eventually because I just didn't like going out and doing 3 hours in the rain every day. So the notion of riding and competing indoors just really appealed to me. So that sort of progressed into sort of track racing, track riding, track sprinting. And that was where I met a guy called David Grice who held the British record for land speed, and he did it on the M42 motorway behind a Rover test driven by Wyn Percy. So he held the British record at 110 mile an hour, and as soon as I met him and I sort of understood what the record was about, it was like, oh, that's so cool, I want to go and do that one day. And that was 25 years ago. So roll on 20 years ago, about 5 years ago, I thought, well, I've got to try and do this. So it was just a slow process then of...
So you were already in prep to do the record before Guy Martin did his attempt,
yes,
is that right?
Yes.
Because that kind of brought a lot more attention to it, didn't it?
Well, it did. But I mean, it was just a sort of pivotal time for me personally, as well as it just so quick happened that he did it. I was actually there when he did it. I sort of looked at his bike and the sort of the investment that he had to do it, and I sort of looked around and went, my God, you don't need all this stuff to do that kind of speed. You do, sure, you do 150 mile an hour, 200 mile an hour. You need a lot more investment, but to do 100 mile an hour, surely you could do that on more or less standard stuff.
Because you broke the British record, is that right, on a tandem? A modified tandem, but already a record-breaking tandem.
Yes, we broke Guy Martin's record of 112 mile an hour on a 20-year-old tandem that was used in 2000 by Andy Wilkinson, the Land's End on the Groat. So it's got a long, an ultra-long distance record, British record. And it's now got it had the British record as well.
And to make it clear, it was just you solo on the tandem.
It was just me. There's a photo over there.
Yeah, there's a photo over there. But why a tandem? I mean, I don't know if you want to answer this, AJ, or...
Yeah, so the starting point for this particular design was based on that tandem, and obviously with a tandem you've got a longer wheelbase. So, Neil's idea there was obviously for stability. You've got that long wheelbase at speed, that's going to give you advantage to begin with. So that was the basis for this design. Was that first tandem.
And also the fact that you've got 2 chain rings.
Yeah,
because the gear you're running here, I mean, what's the standard track gear?
100 inches these days.
100 inches.
Yeah.
And that gear is
600 inches.
That's 600 inches.
Yeah. 600 inches. Yeah. So one revolution, you're moving 12 meters.
Yeah, a few people have come up and tried to actually turn the crank on this and gone.
Yeah.
Well, in fact,
that's good.
We've got a little challenge for you actually.
Yeah. You might earn some money today.
We'd like you to have a go.
What, on the...
if you can get from there to there with that bike, one revolution will give you £20. I don't know if this is...
Okay, should we do this at the end?
No,
right, I'll give that a go, yeah. I can make enough excuses by then. You've already roped me into being behind the car.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway, back to how the attempt worked. You've got a bike that goes 12 metres with every pedal revolution.
Yeah.
Now, you can't just set off. You're doing it at Elkington, which is one of the longest runways in Britain, right?
It is.
Where Richard Hammond had his spectacular crash.
Try not to think about that.
Yeah. Gloss over that. But you can't get it going on your own, can you?
You'll see that it's physically impossible to ride yourself.
Thanks.
Well, anybody anyway, it doesn't matter who you are. So you need to be towed up for speed to get the cadence going, to get the gear rolling enough to actually lean on it. Typically this record is done on the Bonneville salt flats where you've got 6 miles. We don't have Bonneville, we don't have the budget to get there. This bike has been designed to do it in this country. If you look at the world record bike at the moment, it doesn't have any brakes to note, it doesn't have super suspension. These wheels are, heavy-duty wheels.
So they're motorbike wheels, aren't they?
Yeah. And it's to deal with the conditions at Elvington. What our plan is, we've got a 2-stage plan. One is to attempt the world record next year in Yorkshire on this bike, just to break the record at 183 mile an hour. The second phase of that plan is then to go, right, okay, we've exhausted what we can do in Britain. It's to take it onto a proper runway, to a proper venue, 6 miles, and see how fast we can really go. And that's why we've got the hashtag 220 in 2020, because we think we can do that.
Yeah. And the issue you had, am I right in thinking, the issue you had with the time you've got currently, which is must be slightly frustrating, 149 miles an hour. The reason you couldn't get to 150 is
the car's not fast enough.
Yeah, the car being...
It was a Porsche Cayenne Turbo, brand new. The lovely people at Porsche lent it was the fastest car they had that would do the job with a tow bar on it. Yeah. And it wasn't fast enough. Absolutely nailed, and it was driven by a professional racing driver as well, and we couldn't get anything else out of it.
So you've got 2 miles to come off the start line, attached to... Basically, you're on a kids' trailer, a very, very large, very fast kids' trailer bike, up to about 120 miles an hour. Yeah. Attached by, is that right, the boot release catch off an Audi A3?
That's right, yeah.
Which you then get up to...
Yeah, it's got a grip shift off.
So you're on this trailer, basically on a trailer bike, crashing around behind on an old Cold War runway. Well, World War II runway,
yeah, it's bumpy as anything, yeah. And the thing to remember is I'm pedalling all the way, because that was one thing we touched on yesterday, is that what we found is we just sat there and, smoked a cigarette like you think you are. Well, most people perceive that I'm just sitting there, and I'm not. I'm sprinting anyway, because...
It's a fixed gear.
It's fixed gear anyway, but it also changes the centre of gravity. If you just sit there, the centre of gravity is quite high, and it's very unstable. So when you're pedalling and pushing through the pedals, it actually lowers the centre of gravity and makes it much more stable.
But once you release that catch,
then it's...
What wattage are you having to put down?
Probably about 1800 watts, and that's in leathers as well.
Yeah.
In a riding position that is very unnatural. So and also
on a suspension seat post, so you're bouncing up and down.
In motorbike boots as well.
Motorbike boots and motorbike leathers.
Motorbike leathers. And also, you're very aware that any kind of subtle movements you make with your hands and your arms and your shoulders is transferred through the bike. So if you sort of went like that, it would get exaggerated through the bike, and you'd probably be... So any subtle movements can make a dramatic... So
you're not shifting around in the saddle trying to get comfy at 149 miles an hour then?
I'm trying to sprint, but stay relaxed at the same time.
And the other thing you were talking about yesterday is, although in comparative terms, the biggest problem you have is not getting up to 150 miles an hour, it's getting rid of 150 miles an hour in 400 metres, did you say?
Yeah, at best. The thing is, the faster we go, with the less we have to brake. And we've only got 2 miles, and it takes us approximately 1.5 miles to hit terminal speed. But then every time we're doing this, we're having to increase the acceleration more and more and more and more, which means that, you're reducing the...
stopping margin.
Yeah. When we did the 150 mile an hour, basically, we came off that and thought, the world record as it was 167 mile an hour, and we thought, well, I think we can do that with this setup as it is. And so this bike is as it came off the runway at that sort of record. To do that, to do the new record, which is 183, we're going to have to make some sort of serious upgrades.
Because those brakes are already looking quite well cooked.
They are.
As it is.
They are.
They've seen some action, haven't they?
Yeah. So that's the one thing, is we're going to upgrade the front brakes certainly, and also look at a parachute system, which we tested earlier on.
For the bike or you?
You've
got an airbag in the leathers.
I've got an airbag, yeah.
It's full motor GP.
Yeah, we're taking it seriously. We're doing all those sort of risk assessments and that kind of thing, and trying to mitigate any. If you fall off, it's not going to be a big deal. Let's face it. But we've got the best technology for sort of safety as we possibly can. So we're going to have to upgrade the bike to sort of try and attempt to do it in Elving. That's one thing we wanted to do is in Yorkshire, is that we started this process in Yorkshire. So the phase 1 is basically to see what we can do in Yorkshire to sort of, and then to close the chapter on that, and then move on to Bonneville or a test track that.
And one of the key factors in that is getting a new car to sit behind.
It is,
which is currently quite. It's a relatively special car anyway, isn't it?
It is. It's Europe's fastest street legal drag car, and it's 4,000 brake horsepower drag car, and it's completely street legal. You can drive down to the shops and get a pint of milk.
Quickly.
And it runs on alcohol, which is cool, because so do I.
I bet you do after the end of a run.
But they're going over this winter. They're going over to Bahrain to try and retake their crown, because they were the world's fastest street legal drag car.
Right.
And so hopefully by the time they come back to Britain, in sort of
it'll be the world's
fastest
street legal drag car.
Yeah.
With the world's fastest street legal.
Yeah.
Is that street legal? Yeah.
Well, it's got brakes,
it is actually. Yeah, it's fixed. It's got brakes. You probably need reflectors.
Yeah.
Though I don't think anyone from Department of Transport is going to be there. You go, hang on, no red blinker. That's down a notch. Yeah. So AJ, talk us. You're a frame builder anyway.
Yeah, I'm a frame builder from Cheshire. When Neil came to me with this project, of course, it was stretching and challenging me quite a bit, which was brilliant.
Literally stretching.
Yeah, literally, yeah. So to do it in the time, but we actually launched the bike at Bespoke, the Handmade Bike Show in Bristol. Bearing in mind that was in April, and Neil approached me like in January, so not a lot of time really to put this together. So the whole lot was CAD modelling on computer, and then I was able, with the contacts that I had, to actually get some 3D printing done on it. So you'll see at the back end of the bike,
the yokes on the chainsaw at the back.
Yokes at the back, the bottom brackets, they're all 3D printed, which was a little bit more work actually than we thought. A bit of a learning curve with that in itself, but.
Yeah. And it's Reynolds 953 stainless steel.
Yeah, Reynolds 953. Reynolds has been brilliant in helping us with some of the custom bends that we needed. So yeah, that worked out well.
Because it does. I mean, it's got a really nice classic sort of cruiser look to it. I mean, it looks like an old sort of Merlin newsblade and, you know, the classic American cruiser shape, and then that extra bit of like stability, speed. And there's a story behind. Those are old Campagnolo cranks, aren't they? And there's a story behind those as well.
I mean, we wanted to go for the retro look anyway, and ever so slightly. But actually, those cranks belong to a friend of mine, a friend of ours. It's like, and by the way, there's a whole team behind this. It's just not just me and AJ. There's a whole group of people.
With dustpan and brushes.
Yes.
Yeah, going like that at most moments.
This is interesting. So one of the friends, he's a paramedic as well, and he phoned me up and goes, you know, when we're doing this record attempt, he said, what equipment do you want to bring? And I said, well, you know, your normal Medivac equipment. He goes, oh no, I'm not bringing that. I'm just going to bring a hose or a dustpan and brush up at the end of the runway. I'm like, well, thanks.
Yeah. Swab.
Anyway, so no, those cranks belong to a friend of ours, and he's sort of sadly passed away a couple of years ago. But it's the kind of thing he just loved. You know, he'd be looking down and going, yeah. And you know, he was a bit of a techno geek as well, and so carbon fibre chain rings on his cranks, doing this kind of thing. And no, he would have absolutely loved it.
So what is the gearing? I mean, that's a big old carbon chainring on the front.
Yeah, it's currently running 500-inch gear at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's a 65, 47.
Right.
And then the smaller ones like a 16 and 14.
And you've had to weld the rear sprocket direct onto that block at the back.
Yeah.
So obviously on a motorbike it'd be the other way around. It'd be a small shaft because the revs are all higher. Because you're saying the speed you actually pedal is crucial to the stability of the bike. I mean, obviously as a track rider, you're used to pedalling with a really high cadence.
Yeah.
But even with that suspension seat post, the faster you spin, the more unstable.
I
think if anyone has ridden on rollers or anything like that, they'll know if you get to a really high cadence, you start bouncing. Assuming that's not optimal.
No. I mean, pretty much what we do is we sort of put the gear on the bike for the speed of the run that we're going to do. So it's meticulously planned progressively. So we know roughly as we hit sort of optimal cadence what that speed will do, and so the car can't really go above that. What was happening on some of the runs, it was just a case of just flooring the car and seeing what happens really. So that was why on the last run this gear was slightly too small, and you can see from the video it was getting a little bit choppy. So even though I'm smooth pedalling at high cadence, and 100, 110 RPM isn't really, but by the time you've got leathers on and there's flailing limbs and this kind of thing, it does sort of bounce around a bit.
Yeah, and that's not the only obstacle either. I mean, Elvington is a public airfield, isn't it? So
it is.
You were saying you've had wildlife coming across, you've had Cessnas coming into land, you've had,
It's not a controlled airspace, so people just think, I'm just going to go and park down there, and it's like you're coming down there at 100 mile an hour in the car,
And your peripheral income to dentist. Yeah.
I mean, there's one story about we were doing some testing, and the control tower is just a bloke with a walkie-talkie, and so we're about to go and do a run, and there's this sort of Apache helicopter just doing sort of touchdown drills on the airfield, and so we phoned up. We spoke to the guy in the walkie-talkie and said, fancy doing a run soon. Is that guy going soon? He goes, oh no, he's there. He knows you're there. He knows you're coming. He'll move out your way. Are you sure? Yeah. Okay. So we go down to the end of the runway, and what we had to do is we had to sort of, there's a road parallel to the runway, so we had to sort of like welly down the road, the sort of service road, and take this corner at 40, 50 mile an hour, which was wet, being towed. And then as soon as it opened, and because the car was underpowered, so then as soon as you sort of straighten out, we just had to floor it, and just that's it. It is what it is. And when you're driving, you can't slow down because it just rams back the car. And it's a big old mess.
I mean, because you can see, on the front post there, how it works is there's a horizontal post on the back of the car, which you're basically bumping against. Because you were telling me, even at 149 mile an hour, you're braking.
I'm dragging the back brake just to sort of slow down, because what I'm doing is I'm not, as far as the effort goes, I'm just nailing it. So I'm not actually backing off like you would on a track or a derny. You're not feathering the effort, you're just having to just push on, because if you get it wrong, it's such a fine balance of effort in such a short distance.
Yeah.
There's no recovery.
Yeah.
So you're having to press on the pedals all the time and just sort of feather the distance slightly with the back brake and then just punch in the back of the car. But if you punch the back of the car too much, not only does it unsettle the car, but it unsettles the bike. So it's a case of trying to manage this boxing match, really. But yeah, if you look in front of that, we're just ramming the back of the car. I mean, if you look at the YouTube videos, and you can see how aggressive it is.
Yeah.
The whole thing it really is a dogfight.
Yeah. So, and when's the next attempt? When's it scheduled in for?
We're going to go for it in June. That's the plan at the moment. It obviously depends on the car coming back and the weather. But yeah, we're hoping to go for the 183 world record in Yorkshire.
And where can people find out about times and?
Yeah, I mean, if you follow our Facebook pages or our Instagram, Twitter, that kind of thing, and also
that's Operation Pacemaker.
Yes, .com and sort of the Facebook and all that kind of thing as well. But yeah, hoping to set a world record in Yorkshire.
Fantastic. That potentially upset a lot of pros who are planning to be the fastest riders in what they think is the fastest rider in the world. When they cross the World Championships line, you go, well, actually, you're approximately 150 miles an hour too slow.
Yeah.
But never mind.
It's quite funny when people go, oh yes, you got 170 mile an hour downhill, and you go, well, just twice that, mate.
And this,
But it's silly, you do 70 mile an hour down a descent, but you're only wearing lycra.
Yeah.
And I'm doing 150 mile an hour, but I'm wearing leathers, so it's,
Yeah. Well, there's all sorts of...
but that is it's a 40 kilo bike, so if you start rolling with that, it's going to get messy. So.
Yeah, indeed. Well, look, it's been absolutely great talking to you.
Cheers.
Before I burst my knees trying to move that thing.
Yeah, 20 quid, mate, come on.
Here we go. Am I allowed to leave it in the paddock stand?
No. Go on.
I'll give it a go. Right, well, ladies and gentlemen, big hand for Neil and AJ, because you won't be giving me a big hand on that show. I don't think I'm going to need that. I'll just lie down gracelessly. Cheers. Sure, that'll make a massive difference.
You're going to get a full revolution.
I'm going to go through that coffee stand, aren't I? If I even get that now.
Do you want us to hold it? Do you want us to go on?
Got the wrong plates in. Right, okay. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that ain't going anywhere. Can I leave it here for Charlie Sanfield?
Oh yeah, come on.
Absolutely. We'll leave it here for Charlie.
Oh, he's going again.
Yeah, we'll see if we can do it as the Bike Day Challenge. I'll laugh if Lizzie gets it going and Charlie doesn't. Right.
My one isn't Sinead.
True, yeah. Just...
Come on.
Sorry, no, that's it.
Oh, you're trying.
Oh yeah, I was trying.
That was trying.
You gonna go? I'll give it a third. But...
You've got too much time on the sofa, mate.
Indeed. Well, thanks very much for watching, everybody. Next up is Steve from On Designs, and that's at half 11. Okay, thanks very much.